So ESS BIZGrants, what we're going to look at today is a brief explanation of what ESS BIZGrants is. Obviously it's a cloud technology product to assist accountants and consultants to identify grants that their individual small medium enterprise businesses might be eligible for. It's not practical to have a one-all-fits-all sizes in this type of area. You might have a client that looks very similar to another business. The other business may have secured a government grant, but your client, for various reasons, might not be eligible. There's a fair bit of requirements relative to type of structure the business operates in, turnover, number of years in business, employee numbers, which we'll talk about a little bit later. We're going to explain to you how ESS BIZGrants works and show you the types of reports that are produced. So where the system starts from is that you're required to enter your client's profile. It takes about 6 minutes. The profile is requiring you to answer 20 questions about the client, so that the system, the ESS BIZGrants system, can then do its work to sort out of the hundreds of government grants, the ones that might be suitable for that particular client. Then you can have a closer look at those grants. You might know that in some instances the client's not particularly interested in that type of activity. It might be an apprenticeship grant, for argument's sake. And you say, well, the client said he's never going to employ another apprentice, or he's got no employees, or whatever. And you are then able to specifically answer some more questions that relate to a particular grant, so you can determine whether you think your client might be eligible for that. The system will then prepare a grant report for you, highlighting the grants that you've identified that you believe the client could be eligible for. You are able to have a direct link to the appropriate government website to view the application form, or indeed to start using the application form if you require. And we're going to have a tour of the website, and we'll talk about your investment later on. So ESS BIZGrants is a quick and easy solution to finding government grants for individuals, small businesses. This product is only designed for small businesses, so it's not suitable for not-for-profits or charities. We have concentrated on small business. So if you have a not-for-profit organisation, they probably will not be offered a grant because the system's not geared for those types of activities. The product's being developed by ESS BIZTOOLS. We've been in the business for at least the last 10 years of supplying tools to accountants to help accountants to deliver a range of non-compliance services. And the software has been developed by Tim Donovan from Real Advantage Solutions to provide the smarts to make this work as a cloud-based technology product. So when we start, we need to enter this profile. So what's included in the profile for a client? First of all, you need to make a decision whether you're going to enter the client's name or use a numbering system, and it's your numbering system. You just need to bear in mind that the data is in the cloud, and each firm has their own rules on how they're going to identify clients in using cloud technology. So that's up to you. You then need to identify the type of structure that the business operates on, whether it's a company, a partnership, trust, sole trader. The turnover can be very important. In some instances, it's minimum turnover that determines eligibility for grants, and in others, it's maximum turnover. So we need to know the turnover levels. Employee numbers are required for some grants more than others. The state government grants. In some states have a requirement for certain numbers of employees, minimum numbers of employees in a business. So we need to know the numbers of employees. The location of the business is very important. There are some grants that are more beneficial for some businesses based on location, and those locations can be areas like outer metropolitan areas or remote locations and very remote locations, or outer regional areas. So there are some areas. These locations are all determined on the health industry maps. Does the business export? Does it import? And what type of business is it? The business types are determined based on the Australian and New Zealand industrial classifications. I mentioned most of this before. You will be able to review possible grants in a pending list. You then have to answer some additional questions. Then the system will produce you a grants report, and I'll show you a report shortly. You can also get some assistance from the toolkit. Within the toolkit, for every individual grant, we have included a paper on how that grant operates, what the application requirements are, what the reporting requirements are. These are all papers that are also included within ESS BIZTOOLS, but we've incorporated them within the ESS BIZGrants so that if you wish, you can read the paper to get a better idea of how that grant works. In some of the grants, the more complicated ones, there are some additional items available within the toolkit. It might be a checklist on what you need to have if you're going to make an application. But the toolkit is there to assist you. You can print the paper and give it to the client if you wish, so to give them a better idea of what the grants are all about. And you can also link direct from ESS BIZGrants to the relevant government website. So we're going to end that, and we're now just going to go on to the ESS BIZGrants website. When you go on to the site, there are some testimonials there that we're very proud of, especially the one from David Smith. David Smith, a director of Smith Inc. This is a tool that should reside in every accountant's office, according to David. And I'm pleased to say that quite a number of accountants around Australia are agreeing with him and have been subscribing, so that you can utilise this product without having to either outsource the work to someone else and another consultant gets involved. I had a discussion with a partner in an accounting firm recently in one of the major cities, and she indicated to me that she felt very embarrassed because a client had come to her and had indicated that he'd been to see someone else to lodge an export market development grant application. The embarrassment was that as a firm they knew nothing about the export market development grant and felt that they'd let the client down. And the other problem there was the potential for that other consultancy firm, which apparently had some links to an accounting firm, that they were making suggestions that maybe the client should be switching all of their work to this other firm. So that really highlighted to that lady the necessity to have an understanding of how grants operate and to be a subscriber so that they wouldn't be caught out like that in the future. So when you first visit the site and we want to have a look at some things, you can review 8 case studies. They're already in the system. So if you wanted to have a look at case study number 3, it's based on a business in Bankstown in New South Wales, and it goes through the whole procedure of the type of reports that might be produced for this particular activity, and you can have a look at that at your leisure. So there is some information there that you can view. We'll now start our search. I've already logged in, so we'll go straight to client profiles. Now, we have a number of client profiles already in there, but in the first instance, I'm going to show you a blank profile so you can understand what you have to complete. The first area we're looking for is the name or the reference number that you've allocated. You need to tick or just enter the type of structure that this client operates on. I'll move that a bit too quick. Undoubtedly, the most popular entity from a government, especially the federal government's point of view, is a company, but it could have been any one of these other areas. In some instances, some of these other entities are eligible for some grants. But I have to say that for the majority of the larger grants, an applicant has to be a company. We want to know whether they export, do they import. Number of employees I mentioned a little earlier was very important. Do they have an ABN? If you answer no to that, you won't be offered any grants because they will not be a tax-paying small medium enterprise, which is what ESS BIZGrants has been determined for. The number of years the business has been operating is important. Indeed, for Enterprise Connect, which is arguably the largest individual grant by numeric numbers available in Australia, has a requirement the business must have operated for 3 years and to have submitted 3 annual business activity statements. Turnover, well, there are minimums and there are maximums. You're all undoubtedly aware of the research and development $20 million differentiation between whether it's a 45% potentially cash rebate on R&D expenditure or it's a 40% rebate to be taken into account in the tax calculation. But there are many other grants that have both minimum and maximum amounts. Some of them you don't need any turnover. So within Commercialisation Australia, their Skills and Knowledge Grant, which covers business plans, market research, intellectual property advice, has no minimum turnover, but it's got a maximum turnover of $10 million. So it varies. Enterprise Connect supports 12 different industry group types, and the minimum revenue can vary from $750,000 in a remote area to $1.5 million for a manufacturing business in a city or regional area. Annual expenditure comes into play when we're looking at Enterprise Connect. Because Enterprise Connect is such a large grant, we've included that question there. So basically, Enterprise Connect has this requirement for a minimum turnover or expenditure. So if that minimum's $1.5 million, which it is for the manufacturing industry, what that's saying is the business may have virtually no turnover, but has spent more than $1.5 million. It may have been a significant amount of research and development. It may have constructed a pilot plant, may have done a lot of work and therefore cost a lot of money on patent searches and patent registrations, etc. So you can have the situation where the business eligibility is in fact determined on the amount of money that the business has spent rather than its turnover. Registered for GST, yes, you have to be registered. If you're tax exempt, you're obviously a charity or not-for-profit and you won't be offered a grant yet. Or if you are involved in research and development, we need to know, not only because that's going to, in our system, give a link to the research and development rebates, but also in a program like Commercialisation Australia, which supplies substantial grants for businesses that have undertaken the development of a new product, process or service. Our assumption is, or one of the triggers for a business being in that situation, is that it may have undertaken research and development. So that's one of the links we've built into our system. If you tick that box, you will be offered the various Commercialisation Australia grants. Are there concerns about the financial vulnerability of the business? Now, this question is asked in virtually every government grant application these days, but please bear in mind the question is being asked by a government employee, and it's really financial vulnerability as it may be seen from the viewpoint of a government employee. And that basically means, is a liquidator or receiver about to be appointed? Is the government potentially going to be embarrassed by a front page newspaper story? The government gave a grant to some organisation and within a very short time a receiver or liquidator was appointed. It's not financial vulnerability from strictly from an accountant's point of view. You might have said to the client, your debtors days outstanding are 64 days. The national average is 55 days. That's bad enough, but you're worse than that. Whilst that might be a concern to you and to the client's banker, unless it's going to lead to a major problem such as liquidators or receivers being appointed, it's really not the sort of issue that you would answer yes for. Someone else sent a question to us recently and said, what happens if it's a start-up business and they're suffering? Well, again, my answer is liquidators or receivers about to be appointed. Unfortunately, there are very few, if any, grants out there now for startups. There's still a couple in some of the states whereby a business can get some vouchers for work to be undertaken with them. But a few years ago, there used to be a fair number of grants for startup type businesses, young businesses. These days, the governments are really only wanting to offer grants to more established businesses, except for, as I said a little earlier, Commercialisation Australia for its three initial grants, skills and knowledge, experienced executives and proof of concept. The businesses don't need any turnover, and the maximum turnover is $10 million for those three components. So financial vulnerability, please be careful how you answer that. If you answer yes, our system will not display any grants for that inquiry because our assumption is that the government will not entertain a grant for businesses that are showing that they're financially vulnerable. So what we're going to do now is takes a bit of a while to go through and show you a complete application. I'm just going to pick one out. I'll just go through all these. One we did recently. We had a business which we called Forbes Motel. We based it in Forbes, and we'll just edit and go back so you can have a quick look at what the criteria was. We said that they were a company. They don't export, they don't import, but they've got 17 staff. They've got an ABN. They've been operating for 8 years. Turnover at 1.9 million, expenditure 1.75. They're registered for GST. They're not involved in R&D. So we'll move on. We had to insert their address. So when you go through and insert the address, you will You insert down to the postcode, and the postcode then determines which location type that the business is operating in. Financial details, just repeating what's already been put in. And within the business and industry profile, you need to identify what business, now this is in accordance with the Australian and New Zealand industrial classifications. So we've looked at those there, and we've said that this business, which is a motelier, is a service provider. And we also need to look at the industries in accordance with the Australian New Zealand industrial classifications, and we've obviously decided that this is accommodation, cafe, restaurants. Now you could have a client that's involved in a business that is got a different business category and or a different industry category. You just list whatever there is. So we then look at the search, and we've already used this a couple of times. So within our, the system's run ahead of me there because I clicked something. We first of all get a pending report of various apprenticeship grants, which you may say, no, the client's really not interested in those, but we have the Australian Bureau of Statistics. That's free information. It got changed about 6 or 7 years ago by Peter Costello when he was the Treasurer. The government used to charge about $4,500 for that information. It's now available free. There is some work that the ABS will do and charge a fee, but you can look at that there. There are programs that, like Innovative Regions, whilst that applies in some parts of New South Wales, I know it doesn't apply in Forbes, so I've just skipped over that. And we have remote enterprise. Now, we've already processed a few in an earlier webinar, and I didn't refresh it before I started, which I should have, I suppose. But I'm going to look at remote enterprise as a group, just to explain to you how a group might work. Enterprise Connect has this concept of groups. So if we click on to the name, and this happens for every grant, it will then take you to the details. Now, the reason this has come up is that a business located in an outer regional area that is supplying products to businesses in the remote or very remote regions can be part of a remote business. In fact, a business in an outer regional area, which would be the case in Forbes, that is earning its income from clients located or in a regional, sorry, I'll rephrase that, in a remote or a very remote area of more than 50% of their income, can also be considered to be a remote location business. Now you might say, why would they do that? Well, the turnover threshold's lower. It's only $750,000, and it can be any type of business, not the 12 industry groups that Enterprise Connect normally applies to. You can have a look at the funding details. So a number of businesses can come together to go into a group. Theoretically, they can each obtain $20,000 on a 50% basis. If their turnover is only between $750,000 and $1 million, their grant is $20,000. But if, pardon me, if their turnover's $500,000 up to $750,000, then the grant that's available to them individually is $10,000. So to be a member of a group in a remote location, your turnover only needs to be $500,000, the group must have a total expenditure of over $2 million. So within the grant toolkit, you might want to look at a paper. So we'll say that we want to look at the paper on how this operates. So here's the paper. It's the Enterprise Connect program. How does it work? Just for curiosity, you can see there the industry groups that Enterprise Connect applies to. They can all have groups operating within them, except professional services, transport, and information technology. So the rest of them have all got this group concept. The minimum turnover varies, as does the minimum turnover for the group itself, but they all do operate in this way. And we've got within our system, you can connect to various papers to read about these other grants that are available. We then need to go to answer some additional questions. So the requirement is that 75% of the firms must be based in a remote or very remote area. So if this motel was working in conjunction with a tour operator and a bus operator and other people who maybe were located in the remote area, we might be able to answer yes to that. Is there a maximum of 4 firms in the group? And we say, yeah, that's all there's going to be. Has each of the companies got a turnover of over 500,000? We say yes. Does the group have revenue expenditure of at least $2 million in the last 12 months? We say yes. Do the individual firms participating in the group meet at least one of the following? Are they value-adding businesses? Are they part of a critical supply chain? Do they have an export orientation? Do they support sustainability? It might be environment community. So you have to meet at least one of those. So we'd be saying here that this motel is going to form part of a critical supply chain with some other businesses, generally in the tourism, information activities. Do the group members have a common business interest? So they're virtually asking a similar question, but we're saying yes, we've got complementary businesses. As each of the companies operate in Australia and lodged a business activity statement for the last 3 years, we say yes. And are each of the members of the group solvent? So if we answer yes, now at this stage, up here we're saying that this is all pending confirmation. And there's nothing there in that box after additional criteria. So if we answer yes, are each of the members of the group solvent? What the system's done is now identified that you could be eligible on this grant, and it's added apply now. So if we want to go to apply now, we click there, and if we clicked on this URL, that would take us to the Enterprise Connect application form. It takes a little while, so we won't do that. And we will now go back to results. Now, under potentially eligible, we've now got these remote enterprise firms that operate in those areas. And we already had a few others that we'd already put in there. So we've identified a grant. We said the client is potentially eligible. If you want to at this stage, and obviously our recommendation would be you could then produce a report. So this is the grant report that's been produced for the Forbes Motel. The name there would be your name. So it's the name of the subscriber to ESS BIZGrants. What you receive then is a summary of what the grant's about, and then we get the funding details. There is a disclaimer at the bottom of each page which basically says that this is only a recommendation. The client's still got to go through the application process, and there's various reasons why the government department might not back a grant application. So we have then, on the items which we've already picked that we're interested in, we've got the printout of what those grants are about. So what we envisage you would then do is be able to sit down with your client in a very proactive manner, say, I've identified these grants, we've printed up some papers on the grants. Are you interested in us proceeding to prepare an application for you? At that stage, that's when you'd start charging for the client for those services to be offered to them. So that's how the product works. I've had a question come through to me. R&D grants would still apply for SMEs. That's perfectly right. I didn't go through each of them. Once I overlooked R&D at that stage. You can apply for research and development with, in effect, no turnover. In fact, quite a number of businesses do it. They're normally very anxious to lodge tax returns very soon in July each year because presumably if there's no turnover, they're operating at a loss, and they want to get their hands on the 45% cash rebate as soon as possible. Our recommendation on the use of ESS BIZGrants is that it's a good opportunity to update the client's profile as you're completing their annual set of accounts. It will take 6 minutes to insert it initially in the first time. If you leave it in the system, which is what we're recommending you do, it's only going to take a couple of minutes to update it each year from there on, and the system will then process what grants may be suitable for that client. We are releasing version 2 of ESS BIZGrants hopefully towards the end of June, and it will have an added feature that if any new grants have been added to ESS BIZGrants since you last visited ESS BIZGrants for that client, if those new grants look like they might be suitable for that client, then they will be included in the pending report and appropriately identified that they're new grants that that client might be interested in looking at. At this time of the year, I know some of you, whilst it may seem a bit strange, but some of you will have some of your team members not fully occupied. It can be a job which some accountancy businesses are doing, of allocating junior accountants the job of going through and putting the client details into the client profiles, so that that part of the work's being done now. And in some cases, obviously, a more senior person's having a look at the ESS BIZGrants profile for the client and processing the report so that some discussions can be held with the client as soon as possible. In this current economy, there are some very difficult economic times out there. There's talk about the digital disruption that Deloitte have highlighted in their report. CTH produced a report on comments by small, medium enterprises and some accountants in April. All these things are identifying, A, there's changes going to occur in the marketplace as far as accountants are concerned, but secondly, SME clients are looking for more services to be provided to them by their accountants. We believe that identifying government grants is an ideal way to start getting an involvement with your clients. It's also a way to be able to just moving that back. Proactively help your clients to get some government money coming into their businesses to do some of the things, and also it's a way for you as an accounting business to be able to earn some fees for doing some of this work, especially in Enterprise Connect. I've
personally been involved, and I've seen other accountancy firms involved in Enterprise Connect projects ranging from budgets, cash flow forecasts, debtors analysis, business plans, corporate governance reviews, human resources systems reviews. So there's a range of work that then can be done. We've had another question come in here. Well, two more questions. The person who questioned me about research and development previously, question was about, he sent me another question, can a startup receive a research and development? Yes, a startup can. It's one of the few areas that startups will get any benefits as long as they've spent in excess of $20,000 in the 12 months on legitimate research and development expenditure. They would then be able to claim the 45%, and subject, of course, to them being a company, and also that they have registered with Oz Industries before the 30th of April in the following year, or the date of lodgement of the company's income tax return. We have another question. How do you market this product? Well, I think there's a couple of opportunities. Number one is internally within your firm, you start preparing the grant reports, put the data into the system, produce it, start talking to your clients. And our experience is most of the clients will be very keen to apply for a grant, but not all will be. Some people don't like dealing with governments for anything. And if you know your clients a bit inclined that way, well, perhaps you don't do the processing in the first place. The way you can do some pardon me, marketing on grants is to have a look at, especially Enterprise Connect, what opportunities are there to form some groups. And we've produced a few articles of late that if any of you want them, please send us an email, we'll send them to you, about how you could go about forming a group in the tourist industry, because not every aspect of the tourist industry is eligible for Enterprise Connect grants. How you could form a group within the manufacturing industries. It's basically just a supply chain. And you don't have to have all of the group members as your clients. It might be one of them is your client. You talk to them and you say, well, how about we see what benefits are from forming a group. Now, obviously, the clients or the group have got to be getting an overall benefit out of this. And within Enterprise Connect, the basic criteria seems to be is there activities which are going to is there activities which is going to improve the overall business performance of those businesses. So Enterprise Connect funds a wide range of activities, from occupational health and safety to laying out a factory to undertaking some of those jobs that I said accountants could look at, business plans, budgets, cash flows, etc. But virtually anything that you can argue and then convince the Enterprise Connect business officer that will improve the business's overall performance. And once you get into a group situation, there's an opportunity to project manage that group, because if you had 4 people in a group and they're each eligible for $20,000, that's $80,000 in grant funds. They've also got to contribute $80,000 between them. Got $160,000. Depending on what it's being utilised for, could well require a project management role, which you as the accountant that's put all this together could probably do. And what it can do is encourage the clients to be starting to look at more business advisory services type work. The other thing to bear in mind is about $5 billion per annum handed out in grants, primarily targeted at small, medium enterprise. That includes the research and development grants. I've had another question, where is the cloud and how secure is it? The cloud is operated through a cloud type organisation. I forget the actual terminology hasn't come to me then I said that, based in Sydney. We've had all sorts of assurances on the security of it. As far as we know, it is very secure. If you're worried about the security, then the only real information that you're making available is the client's name. You can insert a number if you wish, but you'll have to keep the record, obviously, of the numbers that you've allocated to a client. You could remove the information at the end of a particular processing. All that will mean, though, is that each year you'll have to reinsert it again if you want to have another look at what grants might be available for that client. Is there any further questions? As I said before, if you have any other questions that you wish to send through to us, please do not hesitate to send us an email, peter@essbiztools.com.au, or you can make a telephone call to me if you wish, 0747241118, and we'll be happy to talk to you. So hopefully you can see your way clear to becoming a subscriber to ESS BIZGrants. The subscription to ESS BIZGrants is $450 plus GST. That gives you 24/7 access for the next 12 months for an office, irrespective of the number of people that might be using the system. $450 plus GST for the 12 months subscription, and you'll be able to start using the product within 24 hours of completing the subscription. If you are interested in subscribing to ESS BizTools, a gold subscription package within ESS BizTools includes a free subscription to ESS BIZGrants. So the ESS BIZGrants is obviously part of the gold package. Yeah, well, I've had a request here from one of the viewers to read an article on Enterprise Connect. We will send her that, and if anyone else would like to read a paper on Enterprise Connect, or indeed any of the government grants, please send us an email and we will send that to you.